Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys Podcast, episode 8. Back here, another day, another dollar. 8, for those of you that don't know, how many Hart trophies Wayne Gretzky won in his first 8 years in the league? 8 straight.
Damn.
So,
That's pretty
winning
nice.
the NHL MVP 8 straight years from the ages of like 19 to 27, so that's not bad. We are back, gonna do a little bit of NBA today, actually, for the first official time, maybe.
Yeah, kind of. We did a little Olympic here and there, but
yeah, exactly.
That's
so
a
first,
different
like
genre.
NBA talk, and then we're gonna do some soccer at the end. We got some, some fun topics, some sort of preview type stuff for the NBA, and then an interesting draft for soccer that I think you guys will find funny, and a little bit of debate in it as well. Chad, why don't you holler at him for a little bit?
Yeah. Once again, just happy to be here as always. I will say 8, very special episode because that was Ethan's college number. So got to represent, or one of his college numbers, that is. I don't think we'll ever do a 00 episode, so that'll be tough.
Maybe for 100, we'll count it as the double episode.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah,
something to
well,
look forward to.
I tell you what, episode 100, we better be bringing out the big guns by then. We'll be doing something.
Well, we
be
forgot
doing
your
something.
anniversary episode with episode 1.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You were wearing the one shirt for Bethel.
Hey, man, we can always go to my JV basketball days when I was wearing 42 with the largest shorts any human's ever worn in history.
No, they
Whoever-
can't be because TCs were bigger.
Yeah, that was right at the end of the era where wearing like baggy shorts was tough, and then all of a sudden, like, you know how like a trend then all of a sudden becomes the worst thing you can do like overnight.
Yeah.
So it was like that era. It was like that year it became the worst thing ever, and I'm just sitting there 42, no court swag at all, baggy shorts, trying
What was
to
that,
start.
like 2013, 2014?
This is 12, probably 12. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is what it is, man. We all make mistakes, but other than that, I'm doing good, man. I'm happy. You guys know anyone that knows me, I'm a big. Look, I mean, I like all sports. Let's be clear, but basketball is, I would say, the time I get. There's a little bit more extra glow in me once basketball season starts, and the regular season tips off about a month from now. We're recording on September 21st, Saturday, so about a month away from the season starting. I'm excited. I'm starting to get that itch back.
Yeah, the weather's getting a little bit cooler, not getting as many of those super hot days. But yeah, so let's sink our teeth into it a little bit. I have some what ifs for the NBA season that I wanted to throw off of Chad. Again, like he said, he's more of the NBA guy, so I kind of wanted to more pick his brain today and see what he's seeing for this upcoming.
Not to say that Ethan doesn't have respectable NBA knowledge, though. I didn't want to make it seem like I was downplaying you.
Mine's
there.
just fine. I'm okay.
So humble.
He
So
does a
humble.
job. But so this first one, I wanted to do a little bit of setting up a little bit. Okay.
Setting the scene.
So I'm gonna ask the question, but then I need to give my sort of background of what exactly I'm trying to get at. So my first what if for this year is what if Zion gets hurt again? Okay, what if he misses extended time again? So because I was thinking about it initially, I was like, what even is Zion right now? He didn't make the All-Star team last year, even though he played 70 games, so it wasn't like it was an availability thing. I think he averaged about 23 points a game. So definitely, like, best player on the team type numbers, but, like, I did want to play a little game with you really quick about Zion, though.
Yeah.
It's called Who Has More? Okay? Who
You're
has
asking
more-
hard, then there are going to be a lot of guys.
Who has more career series wins, Zion or T-Mac?
Well, Zion's never played in a playoff game, so... well, shit. Actually, they might be equal then, I guess, because I don't think T-Mac ever won a series as
I did
an
this research this
actual
morning.
player.
Technically, T-Mac was on that Spurs team.
Spurs? Yeah, I'm not counting
He
it.
played
Sorry.
6 total games that year in the playoffs,
Oh,
including
shit.
2 in the finals somehow. So I guess technically it is T-Mac, but like you said, if you want to be more egregious about it, then they're probably the same. More career playoff points, Zion or Alex Sarr?
Wizards great already. Yeah, I mean they're even. So I know Zion is still he's He's like the playoffs are Bigfoot to him. He's heard about him and he's heard people talk about him, but he's never experienced it himself.
And then the last one, who has played in the more career playoff games, Zion, me, or you? And again, I think the answer to that is pretty obvious at this point, that he's never played in the playoffs. And I know a lot of NBA fans, or especially NBA casuals, like to do the thing where they're like, well, it's about the team, it's not about a guy, it's not about this or that. But if you can't take your team just to the playoffs, that says something. I mean, if a guy like who's been the punching bag of the NBA media, especially certain parts of the media at times, Trae Young, can almost single-handedly take his team to an Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think it's too much to ask if a guy's an elite guy to at least just take his team to the play-in and then into the playoffs. I don't think that's too much to ask for a guy that you're paying about $40 million for over the next 4 years, including this year. So, like, what if Zion gets hurt again, or what if he's just not even in, like, an all-star guy? Like, what if it's another Zion season where it's no playoffs, or he gets hurt, or he's not an all-star?
Well, look, in that case, the number one thing obviously you're going to look at is the number one thing would be, well, what's the trade situation going to be like for him? And I'm pulling up his contract now. He signed a 5-year, max extension, whatever he was eligible for after his third year. People lost their minds. They're like, how can you pay this guy? He's hurt, he's hurt, he's hurt. And as you pointed out, last year actually did play 70 games. So, he's weird. We're going to talk about the trick-or-treat kind of thing later on in the episode about the up and down players across, kind of focusing mostly on soccer. But Zion's career is a perfect example of that. 20-something games his rookie year. Then his second season, he comes out, plays basically a full season. Was, I think, third team All-NBA that year. Had a hell of a season. Then breaks his foot, misses his entire third season. Came back 2 years ago, was kind of at best. Probably was the lowest point of his, I mean, not the lowest point of his career, but probably the least amount of people were fully in on him at that point. And then he came back this year, and I thought had a hell of a year. First half of the season was not as good. Second half really, really came on strong. End of the year averaging 25 points and 7 boards a game. If anyone remembers that play-in game where they played against L.A., I think it was, he was just dominant. He ended with, or had 30-something points before obviously picking up the sprained ankle, or maybe knee it was. I don't even remember. But some lower leg injury that he's been dealing with for years. And that's kind of been the story of his career, right? Just as soon as it looks like he's getting back on the, going on the upward trajectory, then all of a sudden an injury happens. And, of course, the first thing everyone's pointing to is the weight, right? The weight. I will say, social media and pictures can definitely tell a story that isn't true, but every picture that I've seen of him in the last 6 weeks or so, he actually looks slimmer, like legitimately looks a lot slimmer, like noticeably slimmer, not just, hey, catch me at this good angle and I can look one way, versus a different way with the same body type. So I think he's going to have a good year. I think I'm actually really excited to see what the Pelicans are going to look like. They still have a trade to make, which is kind of the thing I'm looking at the most because their GM, David Griffin, even said at the end of the season last year that the team has to look different this year. And I don't think, yes, they did trade for DeJounte Murray, but I don't think it's just the Murray trade. I think they have a few more moves in them. Ingram and Zion, that relationship has always been kind of up and down. Feel like you can't really get the best out of both of those guys with them on the same team. So, and New Orleans is dying for a big man right now. I mean, the most experienced center they have is Tice. There's been a lot of talk that Zion's going to play the small ball 5, which is going to be exciting as hell to watch. But at the same time, God help, who's their coach, Willie Green, because defensively it's going to be a mess.
When they're playing against Jokic all those times, when they're playing
Yeah, I mean, Davis. A trade candidate that I've heard people...
Alex Sarr.
Hey, man. Sarr will be able to miss some 15-footers real good, that's for sure. He'll be able to do that. But a trade partner I've heard a lot, just in podcasts and stuff. Obviously, I don't have any inside guys talking to me.
Ever since Woj retired.
Yeah, that's true. Woj is my guy, but now that he's out of the mix, I don't have anybody. But maybe Portland for like a DeAndre Ayton, and some stuff, obviously, because, no matter what you think of Ingram, his trade value is still way higher than DeAndre Ayton's. But just something where they can get a legitimate starting center. And that's a long way of answering it, but I think the Pelicans will actually be fine. I think they're going to be fine. I think Zion's going to have a good year. And I think this year he will finally make the playoffs. And then that'll be a whole new conversation where it's like, well, he finally made the playoffs, but then he didn't perform, if he doesn't perform or something like that.
Yeah,
So.
it's just, to me, like Zion, because I think me and Zion are the same age. Or he might be like a year older than me.
It's crazy.
Like
it's crazy when you think about stuff like that.
And it's just, because I remember, like, I was in that transition between high school and college when, like, he's getting this huge hype and he's, breaking his shoe at Duke and he's...
July 2000 is his birthday, so
Correct.
6 months older you are.
Yeah, so, and, like, I remember it being, like, him and Trevor Lawrence were, like, single-handedly making me feel like just, like, the worst athlete of all time because, like, Zion Williamson is just doing whatever he wants to do in these D1 college games, and Trevor Lawrence is throwing for, like, 350 and 3 touchdowns against Alabama in the national championship, and I'm, like, struggling to get playing time at a D3 college. But, like, I'm seeing him, and he's got all these hype, and people are saying, like, he's the best guy since LeBron, or he's going to be, like, the next LeBron, and this, that, and the other, even though his skill set literally doesn't match LeBron at all. And now we're getting to this point where he's kind of like Reece James. Like, you just hear all these things about him, but it's like you said, like, the Bigfoot thing, I guess I've seen it, but, like, where is it? It's like, well, Zion gets back, or, if they get Zion, or if we get a fully healthy Zion, it's like, but, like, is that ever going to happen? Like, he's in his 6th year.
Yeah, I mean, 184 games in 5 years is certainly not the bill of health. Basically played 2 full seasons, and then the other 3 years have been stop-start at best. So, yeah, not...
And it's just, to me, at what point does his value start to decline? Because, I mean, NBA is the most egregious of any of the leagues where they're just betting on talent. It's like, yeah, I know there's no history of James Harden leading his league to a title, but I'm still going to give him a max. There's no history of Paul George being the best guy on a finals team, but I'm going to give up every single piece of draft capital I have to get him. Oh, there's no evidence of Dame Lillard being able to lead his team to the finals, but I'm going to give up every single asset I have to get him. I know that's what the NBA is, but it's like, at what point do we start to look at Zion? It's like, I mean, I would love to have him on my team, but I'm not going to sell my franchise on a guy that might play 100 games over the 4 years of his deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at the same time, though, like, here's the thing. I actually do feel like he improved last season. Like, last year he was actually better, in specific areas. I thought defensively he did actually get better. I thought he got better at being more patient within the offense. His passing has always been really good, and playmaking has always been really good. Really, the one thing in his game that I think, like, if we're just talking about on court in the game, the stuff that I would like to see better from him is really his rebounding. It's shocking that last year he averaged 5.8 rebounds a game and 5.0 assists. Like, his rebounds, assists should never be that close to each other. And there were plenty of games, especially in the second half of the season, like down the stretch, where it'd be like 23 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds. And you'd be like, that's, for a guy his size and his build, like, that's not how that stat line is supposed to read. Yeah, exactly. I forget just his size, the athleticism part. I mean, that's not how that stat line is supposed to read.
Is that like how the Blake Griffin thing kind of comes into play? I mean, there's a lot of things that we used to watch all the time when we were younger, like Jalen Rose saying, like, the NBA guys don't like Blake Griffin because he uses his athleticism for only the showboat parts. It's like, can you use your athleticism to, like, block a shot or to catch a rebound or something like that?
Yeah, no, it's fair, and that's the thing. Like, he'll make the highlight blocks and all that stuff, so it'll trick people into thinking, oh man, he's blocking shots. But for his career, he's 0.6 blocks a game.
Russillo's favorite block, the block so that the other team can get possession back. Instead of like tipping it to a teammate.
Exactly. So the one that just looks good on highlight.
Block.
Yeah, the one that looks great on SportsCenter top 10, but then it's like, hey, guess what? The team kept possession. Yeah, kept possession, ended up scoring on it. So good job, I guess. But I feel like we've been a bit too negative on Zion. I think he's still improving. You know, you kind of put his age into a different perspective, I guess, just comparing you versus him. But he's still really young. I mean, he's still only 24 years old. You know, we've seen it with some of the guys. You know, Giannis, Jokic. You know, really, like any of these guys who reach that top star level, even really Tatum, even though I know you'll debate if he's at that level, they really don't figure it out fully till about 25, 26, 27. You know, is really when you fully round into the player that you are supposed to be.
And that's fair, but I mean, like, let's not sit here and pretend that, like, Giannis was playing 30 games a year and not making all-star teams in the beginning of his prime. Like, the times that we were debating about a Giannis or a Jokic or a Tatum, it was like, yeah, they're amazing players and they're first, second team All-NBA and MVPs or MVP candidates, but they just can't win the finals. Like, Zion is like, can this guy even play an NBA season? Which, again, like you said, he's young, but to me, that honestly might even be more of a red flag. Because like, if you can't play an NBA season when you're 20, how the hell are you going to play an NBA season when you're 30?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, the injury part usually doesn't get better as you get older, so
correct.
That is definitely a fair concern.
Yeah. And I'm not. And I want to clarify for the viewers. I don't want to be. I'm not saying anything about Zion as a player because I want him to be on the court. I want all these people to be on the court that we talk about. But it's just like if I'm a GM, it's just going to be hard for me to sell my franchise. Like you said, if it becomes a trade situation, it's going to be hard for me to sell my franchise on a guy where it's like, not even is he going to be consistent or he's going to play well. Like, is this guy even ever going to be on the court? Like a Kawhi, like a Kawhi situation what we have now. Like, how can I? But they're going to do it because it's the NBA, of course. And it's the land of second, third, fourth, fifth chances.
100%.
So
100%.
Real quick, all you have to do is show like your highlight tape from high school, be like Harry Giles, and be like, well, I know this dude never played his senior year of high school or ever in college, but I think Harry Giles can be an NBA player.
Yeah, real quick, just to wrap up the Pelicans part of it, if they don't make a trade, I don't really like their team. If they don't make a Brandon Ingram-based trade, then I really don't like their team. I don't think Murray, Ingram, Zion, and C.J. McCollum really all can be on the court at the same time. Those are four guys that all want the ball, so they could trade Ingram for a guy who doesn't need the ball. It makes a lot more sense. They have spacing, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. I actually like Jordan Hawkins. It was second year now, but when he was a rookie last year, I thought he spaced the floor well for them too. So good situation. Like you said, though, we just need him to stay healthy so he can actually benefit from that.
Yep. So my next question, my next what if. What if that was it for Minnesota? What if, so if we look at NBA history, we as fans and we as people, and I think video games honestly plays a small part in this. Like when you're rebuilding teams.
I know exactly what you're about to say.
When you're having a FIFA career mode or whatever, it's like, okay.
Agree completely.
So we got to the second round last year. All we got to do is make one or two trades. All my players are going to keep going up in rating.
Yep.
And then, boom, that means we're going to at least make the conference finals next year. And then if that doesn't work out, then the people are going to keep going up in rating and then make one more trade, and then we get to the finals. That's not really how it works in real life. Player progression isn't linear. Team progression isn't linear. Sometimes people either get hurt or just stop becoming better or just become worse or just break down, or maybe sometimes the team starts going, not saying that this is going to happen, but like Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards just wake up one day and say, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, cool, we can't play together anymore. Trade one of us. And then the whole team falls apart. That happens all the time in the NBA.
Yeah, especially last 5 years.
Yeah, so
last 5 years. Well, look, Gobert has this year and then a player option next year left on his deal.
He's gonna pick that up?
Yeah, $46 million. We can go ahead and confirm that
one.
Nah. Well, I mean, look. Here's the crazy thing. He's 32 years old. Probably be 33 by the time he has to make the decision next year. If Minnesota, for whatever reason, or some team, tells him, hey, decline that, and we'll give you, 3 for $100 or something like that, where he guarantees him maybe a lower annual salary but gives him more years, where he knows he's not.
Hard to deny 100 million, even if you're 46.
Exactly. So if it's something like that, or maybe, if a team would give him 3 for 100, then maybe he would opt out for the long term part. But I would think if they underachieved, then this would be Gobert's last year with the team. And then you really got to look to trade Towns even, because Towns, I think, is more of kind of those concerns we were talking about the Zion playoff stuff. I feel like that's more of the player Towns is than Zion necessarily. I know Towns has been healthy, but just attitude-wise and all that stuff, I just don't feel like he really has it. And
I mean, we saw the two sides of it in the last 2 rounds they played in. It's second round, we could have this guy who could make shots, who could step out and also score on the inside and maybe play decent defense at least.
Yeah, against the best player in the league.
Against the best player in the league. And then the next round, it's or this guy can basically single-handedly lose us the round just by
committing stupid fouls,
all this other stuff, and just going off the reservation, do whatever the hell he wants to do.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And his up and downness, I think, has been, like I said, masked kind of by the borderline. I mean, I guess I can't call him greatness yet, but it
was greatness. Maybe he himself is not a great
player. But the
yet.
Greatness that Anthony Edwards displayed last season, really kind of from start to finish last year. And you talked about the ascension. It's not always necessarily straight. For Edwards, I don't know. It's hard for me to. It's hard for me to see that guy be he's not going to be better next year. I always was fascinated about it with him in the playoffs, but his ability to just ball creation, and then shoot these threes, because he was not a good 3-point shooter in college. That was probably the weakest part of his game coming into the league. As a rookie, I think he shot 7 threes a game, shot 28%. Minnesota just didn't care. That was the post-COVID season, so they're letting whatever the fuck happen. And then Edwards just has turned into a really, really good 3-point shooter where he is it's a legitimate weapon for him at this point in his career at only 23 years old, which, I mean, people probably thought it would be mid-20s, closer to that 26, 27, like we talked about when someone really finds their prime, before he got to that level. But he's kind of already there. So I think... And maybe it's not even an ascension as far as the numbers, but I just feel like the style of play, the ability.
Refined.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe his percentages go up slightly, turnovers down a bit or go down a bit more, just stuff like that, where he's more about the mastery of the game versus just, hey, I'm playing hard, I'm putting numbers up. I think
you see that at times, really quickly. Sorry to cut you off, but the one thing you do see sometimes, I mean, even with guys like LeBron, sometimes in some of their most effective seasons, you don't really see they're leading the league in scoring or they're getting more assists or whatever. It's just I don't know. He shot 3% better from the field. He got to the line 2 more times and made them at a better clip. And then he turned the ball over less, and so they won 60 games. It wasn't a thing where it's I went from averaging 25 to 30. It was I actually averaged 23, and then I also averaged 8 assists and 7 rebounds. And so then my team just won more because I wasn't turning the ball over. I was making every shot that I wanted, and I was making the game easier for everyone else.
100%. And in Minnesota, they had an interesting offseason, added Rob Dillingham to their mix. I actually think he's going to be pretty good for them. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker was a guy who took a huge step last year, so their bench depth is much improved. I've always been a PJ Dozier guy. Can't really explain it. Don't even know if he's good. But, I think Minnesota's going to be fine. But, if they're not, then it'll be probably trade Towns first more immediately, just because I think you would be able to recoup some value for him. Because like we talked about with the Zion thing, the NBA is the land of second, third, and fourth chances. So someone's going to take a chance on the guy, just a matter of who. And,
PJ Dozier?
I was saying PJ Dozier is a guy who I like, but can't explain why. I was saying, do you think? I feel like if they were to underachieve, though, I think Towns is the more likely guy to get traded than Gobert, just because you can recoup some more value. What would you think about that?
And that gets awkward at times because you start to also ask like, what is it that we need? I mean, you're definitely not going to need like another guy that is Karl Anthony Towns, but what, like, I guess I'm going to answer your question with a question. Like, what do you think would be the best complementary piece if you're saying our big two are Anthony Edwards and this? Like, what do you think that other this would be to complement Anthony Edwards? Do you think it would be a big guy, or do you think it would just be more of a wing guy, or maybe like a primary creator, that more of a point guard type, so that Anthony Edwards can be like a second recipient? Like, what do you think that is?
I think a two-way guard would actually make a lot more sense to me. Well, I don't even know, because I think, we've kind of seen the death of the traditional point guard, in the sense that usually now, if your wing guy is like, or I mean really just whoever your best guy is, that guy is running a majority of the offense for you, in tight situations, in close games, all that type of stuff. And I still think Conley and then Dillingham will be able to supplement whatever ball handling needs to be supplemented, in the when Ant isn't running the team, basically. So I think maybe a two-way wing, a guy who can kind of guard up and guard down, just because it allows them to have versatility, in the way they scheme. So that's what I would say, a two-way wing who can kind of guard up and guard down, which is a hard player to find. But, I mean, Towns can still get you a decent player back, no matter what we think of him.
Yeah, so exactly, I agree that Karl Anthony Towns probably would be the guy on the chopping block, because you want a guy with value that also is expendable, which is a hard thing to find at times. But Karl Anthony Towns probably fits that bill, maybe the best in the entire league. Being a guy that's like you're willing to give away, but also you're kind of like,
you actually have to get something back to get him.
He's actually good, and all the other teams know he's actually good. He's been a fairly consistent all-star. Or like in and around that kind of mix. So it gets awkward, but that's kind of where the fun of, I feel like, being a GM kind of comes in, where it's like, what does this other guy think of my guy, kind of. Maybe it's team based too. Like, if you have a guy or a team that could really just use a center that can kind of do a little bit of that inside, a little bit of that outside, then therefore Karl Anthony Towns becomes more valuable. I think we saw this in soccer a couple years back when the Harry Maguire move. It was like, is Harry Maguire worth 80 million pounds? No. But to Leicester City, with what they were doing at that time, he was worth 80 million pounds to them. So therefore, United, if they wanted him, had to pay 80 million pounds. If it was just Harry Maguire playing at West Ham, then maybe he wouldn't be worth 80. But since he was playing for Leicester and that Leicester team relied on that, then he was worth that.
I don't know. I watched that West Ham defense this morning. He might be worth 200 for them.
Yeah, exactly. It was brutal. It was really a brutal sight to see. I mean, seeing Nicholas Jackson look like Thierry Henry up there was kind of just like an impossibility, I thought.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still trade Towns. I just think trading Towns would make a lot of sense for Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree. So I had kind of one and a half more what ifs. All right. The next one that I had was, what if the Warriors want to make one more run with Steph?
Now we're talking. Now we're talking my language. My guy.
What does that look like? What is the play? What is the move? What is the what is the shoot a drop? What happens if they're just like, you know what, Steph, you deserve one more run with us?
Well, I mean, look, the obvious, when you talk about something like that, the what you're essentially saying is trading in youth for more of a known quantity, more experience, I guess. And to me, when you're looking at that, really you're talking about, I mean, the young guys, quote unquote, on the team would be, Pajemski, Moody, Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis. So you look at those four as kind of like the young guys. Jackson Davis, I would find it hard to believe they're going to trade him because he's probably going to be a starter this year. Kuminga, I find it hard to believe that they're going to trade him because he was their second most important offensive player for the second half of the season last year. So that would be difficult. And, actually looked good, played well to me. So then it's Moody or Pajemski. And to me, this is where it gets complicated because you talked about it before. You have to find that, you have to be able to thread that needle of trading guys that you can do without, but also guys that have value to other teams across the league. And to me, I just don't know. Pajemski definitely would have value, but I still think he's too important to the Warriors for them to just be like, all right, we'll package him and Moody together and, with the Wiggins contract and then just go take a flyer on some guy making some money, I think that's why they probably haven't done anything so far this offseason. There had been talks the entire time about, man, they want to move people, they want to do this, exactly like what you said, right? They want to go all in for kind of this last run of the Steph Draymond era, pretty much, which is coming to a halt very quickly. I just don't think that they have the move that necessarily makes sense. Now, the one that's been floated out there kind of the entire time, was Lowry Markkanen, but then he signed that contract extension. Did he sign the contract? Yeah, he signed the 5-year, $238 million extension to stay with Utah, which also makes him not eligible to be traded this entire season. So now it's all right, what guy are we actually looking to go after then? Now you're just looking at taking a flyer on guys who are kind of underwhelming to the team that they're on. And the two guys I would look at in that position would be Julius Randle and Zach LaVine. I think those are two guys who, maybe and maybe Brandon Ingram even too. Although I don't think the Warriors would trade for Ingram just because him and Kerr didn't have the tightest relationship in 2021 Olympics when Ingram got benched for the last two games, even though I'm pretty sure he was had averaged the second most points of any guy on the team that NBA season. So that was complicated. But yeah, we're looking at LaVine, we're looking at, Randall. You're looking at guys with major flaws. And at that point, Randall's $28 million this year. He's got a $31 million player option next year. I don't feel like New York has ever been totally convinced with him. But still, even as underwhelming as he's been, I don't even know if you can get him for a Pajemski, Moody, Wiggins type of thing. I don't even know if that's enough. Right. So LaVine, I think that'd be more reasonable for, just because, LaVine there were talks about him getting basically salary dumped for a protected second in cash. And that couldn't even happen. So I don't know. What do you think? I've been talking a lot too much. I got to get your opinion on this one.
It gets hard because obviously I'm a big LeBron guy, and especially even the last years that he was in Cleveland, it becomes hard to be what's that next move to make? When you don't have a lot of assets, you try to make it's a perfect comparison out of things. And it's kind of and then that's how you end up being well, we improved this spot by bringing in DeMar Carroll. It's okay. And then we improved this spot by bringing in Isaiah Thomas. And it's all right. And then we improved this spot by bringing in George Hill. It's even if you're improving, maybe you are improving it 1% or 2%, but that's not the difference between us winning a title and not winning a title. And I don't want to get into the whole, Steph versus LeBron thing, but especially at this point in his career, Steph's going to need a whole hell of a lot more help to get to the finals, especially in a very strong West, than LeBron would have needed at that point. So, you need to make a legitimate team where Steph Curry can be the guy, not just, give me a pretty decent team, and since I'm Steph Curry, then I'll make it a finals team. I don't think we're in that situation anymore, just based off of his age and, honestly, based on what you can do kind of as a point guard in the league. We see all the best guys in the league now are basically bigger dudes, whether they're centers or not. So I think that you're going to have to give. Thank you. I think you're going to have to give him a lot more than you can based on what they have on the roster right now and asset-wise.
Yeah, exactly. Now, they could always do the stupid thing of being like, hey, we'll give up as many picks as we need to, just to marginal. Like, that was the other thing about that Cleveland situation. They were giving away draft picks and taking on way worse contract situations to, like you said, maybe improve by 1%, 2%. I feel like the Warriors are too smart of an organization to do that. And I think they proved that by not just signing Clay to whatever number was going to make him come back to the team. They still want to... I think they want to still be respectable in the last couple years of Curry, but I don't think they want to sit there and throw away the entire next 10 years of the franchise just to go from 38 wins to 45 wins.
Yeah, and that gets tricky also because it's like, I mean, you know this, there are ebbs and flows in this league. Like, it's very, 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 very hard, if not impossible, to just be relevant always. And so it's like 100%. You got to use that relevance while you have it. Like, you have one of the 10 best players probably of all time, and you need to just be like, you know what? We'll throw away our 5 years after Steph retires if we have a really good, relevant 3 years. And I think that's what a lot of franchises are seeing nowadays is they're just like, look, we got to be relevant while we're relevant. And we're just got to – if we have to throw away 5 years and maybe suck for 5 years – I mean, hell, the Bulls have sucked for huge stretches of time, and they're one of the marquee franchises. The Lakers have sucked for multiple years, and they are one of the marquee franchises. The Celtics were getting the 8 seed over and over and over again. And even before that, going back to the 90s, like didn't make the playoffs or later rounds for years and years. So like some franchises need to look at themselves and be like, look, would we rather try to be like a top 4 seed for the near future and then suck for a little bit, or do we just want to be 8-9 seed just so we can be in the playoffs and not throw our future away for however long?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great question, and one that the Warriors will be asking themselves. It'll be on their whiteboard for the next 6 months, so eventually they'll have to answer it.
Exactly. So the last one I kind of wanted to ask you about is to do with your Sixers. If the Sixers are actually good, what if the Sixers are actually good, but they still don't do anything in the playoffs? Like, and
what does that mean? Does that mean they're good then? Would be my question.
So I mean good as in if you have a regular season team that finishes like as a top 3 seed, but then you still don't make the 3rd round. So like there's a different because it could go all completely wrong and they just suck and they're like a 6 seed.
You're saying 55 wins, maybe they grab the 2 seed, and then it's like, hey, we play Milwaukee in the 2nd round, lose to them in 6 or something like that.
Correct. Like, what does that look like? Is that finally where Embiid starts to be like, I need to get out of here? Or is it a thing where they try and retool again? Or is it...
Well, I mean, you saw that, Embiid, and granted... Kevin Durant proved that being under contract doesn't mean a damn thing when it comes to trade demand. But Embiid just literally, I think 2 days ago, signed that 3-year, $193 million Supermax extension.
That's why I ignored it, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is. It really all it means is that, hey, the team that's trading for him has to come up with this much salary or have this much salary plus room, to sign or to trade for this guy.
Right.
Which is a great point by you, because it doesn't mean anything. It does not mean anything in today's day and age. All it means really is that he can't be traded this season. And that whatever team does end up trading for him, which I think is what's going to happen if the Sixers don't make the 3rd round, whichever team does trade for him is going to be taking on a lot of contract, a lot of salary for a guy who does not play in a lot of regular season games and isn't healthy. Shit. I mean, look, they talk them like that's the thing. Are you wrong for being a team that would talk yourself into shit? This dude won the MVP, won 2 scoring titles, and is like, if you're talking him up, you would say he's the best big man in the league. If you're being realistic, you would say 2nd best. But the 2nd best big in the league, are you making a mistake by trading for that guy? I wouldn't say it's a mistake personally. But it just really all depends on, like you said, what team is trading for him? What's the situation? I think two teams that are sleepers, or not even sleepers, but two teams that should really be considered would be the Knicks, just because of all the connections he has with the agency, and then the Houston Rockets. I feel like they've had a propensity to just continue to improve over the regular season. I know I had to pull out some double plus word, and everybody hates Chris reference at the same time. That was tough. But Houston, they are going to want to continue to improve. And I think they're ready to kind of trade for a real star. They've had a pretend star in Fred VanVleet. Now they're kind of ready to be like, all right, let me get a real star. So I think those would be the two teams who would be throwing a parade if the Sixers went out in the first or second round, especially if it's bad. If it looks like some of the other closeouts where Embiid all of a sudden he's got that blank look on his face and he's looking around. What's Maxey going to do? What's Paul George going to do? I mean, Paul George, if you're looking for him for answers in the playoffs, you got to look somewhere else. But yeah, I think Philly's probably the most fascinating team this season, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's always funny because I feel like I think you referenced it earlier, talking about the last 5 years. Really, ever since LeBron left the Cavs, it's really been. I don't think that was maybe the inflection point, but just that was the timing of it. I think it's just always been funny because there's always one team that completely changes the fabric of their team every year, and it's just kind of okay, what's this team gonna do? Are they gonna be good this year? Are they actually gonna do it? Da, 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 da. And it seems like every single year that team falls flat on their face. The Clippers, they got Kawhi and they got James Harden. What are they gonna do this year?
Yeah, out in the first round.
Oh,
Milwaukee. Milwaukee got Dame.
Yeah, they got Kawhi and Paul George right after Kawhi won the title. What are they going to do? Oh, they blew a 3-1 lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Dame's joining Giannis, best duo in NBA history. What's happening?
The new big three is in Phoenix.
Beal, Booker, and Durant. Yeah. It's you're out in 4.
What are they going to do? It's just every single year this happens, and people keep I keep seeing these stupid graphics. They're oh, bro, this team is scary. Are they? When have teams like that ever been scary?
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
And it's funny because it's people are gonna take this as disrespect, but when you're involving these guys that aren't all time great players, it doesn't work. Think of all the big threes or those type of teams that have worked. They all involve the best players of all time. Either
3 no doubt Hall of Famers.
It's Miami, big 3, had the greatest, arguably the best player of all time, and then another, maybe a top 5 shooting guard of all time, and then a consistent all-star. That's completely different than having KD at the waning part of his career, Brad Beal, who's never made an impact on winning ever in his career, and Devin Booker, who was very, very good in their finals run, but it's he's never established himself as the top echelon guy in the league. Yeah.
I mean, I think Booker's pretty good. I mean, Booker and Durant are pretty good. Beal is where I start to have problems, like you said, when you call that a big 3. But yeah, completely agree. The big 3 thing is out of control. We know this. We all know.
Yeah,
we know that one
exactly. So those are a couple NBA what ifs. Hopefully, you guys found a couple of those interesting. Kind of what your appetite.
That's just a little appetizer for the season. A little appetizer.
What your appetite kind of get you guys going, thinking, what's going to happen, that kind of a thing. This is what I was really excited about for this week, and when I thought of the idea in the middle of one of my classes and I wrote it down, I was really, really excited about it. And so we're going to do a soccer trick-or-treat draft. And I know you guys probably don't know really what that means, but there's kind of an inside joke between me and Chad that kind of got started from Bill Simmons. It's these guys that are trick-or-treat. You kind of don't know game to game, day to day, year to year, whatever. What are they exactly going to be? Are they going to be the best player in in soccer terms? Are they going to be a Golden Boot winner and help us propel us to the league, or are they going to go and score 5 goals and shit away the league? Didier Drogba. Sorry. I had something. I had something in my throat. I don't really
Watch it now. Those are fighting words. Those are fighting words to
guy
some.
that only scored more than 12 Premier League goals twice, I'm supposed to think is a Premier League great because he had like aura or something. So I don't know.
Hey, as an Arsenal fan, you should know all about Aura, right? You guys signed Aura this summer. You guys literally signed Aura.
He was really good the other day when he came on too. He's been good when he's played, but I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. I'm past those days. So just to kind of give you guys a sort of idea of kind of what we're talking about, kind of the basis for this way back when me and Chad were listening to Bill Simmons and Jalen Rose. The main culprit was Jeff Green, where it was, is Jeff Green going to score 30 points and be the best player on the court tonight? Or is he going to take 2 shots and then turn the ball over every time he gets it and just run three-point line to three-point line and not make any impact on the game?
Yeah. And I gotta give credit to Jeff because it's one of those things where other players have tried to take that mantle from him since. Like Cam Reddish tried like hell. But Cam Reddish just wasn't straight up good enough. Like he just couldn't score 30. Yeah. Enough treats, yeah. Well, exactly.
So speaking of that, I had some people or things that I wanted to put in, and this is anything. This could be a player, a manager, a league, whatever.
Yeah.
There are some things in here that I wanted to put in, but then I thought about it for a second. I was like, I don't think there's enough truth in here.
Yeah. We'll call these the Cam Reddish Awards.
Yeah, the people that were eligible for the Cam Reddish Award was short set piece routines.
Oh my God, the worst.
Because they work like once a season. Like one time a season, there will be like some short set piece routine that's like, oh man, that was really, really good. And it's like,
I'll say the short set. I'll let you keep going after, but the short set piece routine literally stopped me from playing pro clubs ever. Shout out Terrence and Jackson because they used to piss me off when they would do that. And you know what I'm talking about because you would be on too once a month.
And then the giveaway, and then you got to step back.
Yeah.
And you get yelled at for not making the run.
Absolutely.
Premier League officials.
Oh, God.
Including
definitely not enough treats.
I wanted to include weird rule changes that no one asked for. Like all these people, these big wigs and whoever, like get on these shows and they're like, yeah, well, obviously everyone wanted to get dissent out of the game. No one wants to see that. It's like, who? I've never ever once seen a fan be like, that game was really, really fun.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed watching it, but man, when Jude Bellingham got in the ref's face, man, I just couldn't. Because the only reason people get mad about that stuff is because some players get booked for it, and then City players don't. I mean, other players don't. That's the only reason people get mad about dissent is because of the inconsistency of how it's applied. So Premier League officials are in there, and then people aren't going to like this because people like him for some reason. But Joao Felix is also in there because this dude is like a good player that only has scored like 20 career goals. So I don't really know where this notion came from that he's like this really good, really talented player and stuff like that. It's like he's just like a vibes guy. Like he's a freestyler basically. And I'm just supposed to be like, yeah, he's really, really good because he did like this scoop turn today. And it's like, yeah, I'm not really that impressed by it. He actually somehow, some way has 76 career goals in all comps. I don't really know. Oh, because he scored 20 in his last season at Benfica. Yeah. So that makes sense. So 56 in his remaining career since then is
Joao Felix is the best player of all time if they never kept score. If they never kept score, he would be the Messi of the day. But unfortunately, they do.
So we wanted to get together and make our Mount Rushmore. We're going back to our Mount Rushmore. We definitely did this
absolutely
in the first couple episodes. But we're going to make our own Mount Rushmores of trick-or-treat people, trick-or-treat things, trick-or-treat whatever in soccer. Why don't you give us our first entry in our trick-or-treat draft in the build-up to, the fall season and Halloween?
Yeah, that's the thing. This is one of those where we had to kind of do it here in one of these next couple weeks because of, the seasonal vibe. I did just want to kind of expand on it first before I go into my first guy. And I don't know how you feel about this, but when I was making my list, I wanted to exclude a couple of different groups of people, two specifically. One, injuries. There's a difference to me between guys who are inconsistent versus guys who are injured. I'm going to give you three names. Well, yeah, Reece James. I mean, he is consistent. He's just consistently injured. We figured the Reece James thing out a while ago. He just doesn't play. But the three guys I have down: Dembele, Serge Gnabry, and Ibrahim Konate, because those are three players who they play just enough or they're healthy just enough to where it's like you can't say they never play. But at the same time, because of health issues, they're going to be up and down over the course of a season. Serge Gnabry, I was shocked to see this. He's put up over 0.7 non-penalty XG for the last 5 years in a row. That is insane to me.
Every single time I see a Bayern highlight, he just has 2.
He's scored today for him. I think
he's the king of the 7-0. When they beat when they'll beat Darmstadt away and then they beat them 7-0. It's
he's got 2.
Scored a hat trick.
Yeah. Well, I mean his most famous game, the 4 goals in the 7-2 win, away at Spurs. So which I got to say that was. I'm completely getting sidetracked, but that was one of the most unbelievable finishing performances I've ever seen.
It was just right in the bottom corner every single time from 25 yards out.
Yeah, exactly. With both feet, too. And I was okay. And then the other thing, guys who struggle in specific situations. For me, Matthias de Ligt defending in space. Anytime he's defending in space, it's going to be a problem. So that's not up and down. That's just consistently going to be bad.
That's just putting him in a bad spot.
Yeah. Kyle Walker, when he's asked to play a big part of possession. I remember
when
asked
to make 10-yard passes.
Yeah. When City played Real Madrid a couple years ago in the Champions League, I swear to you, Ancelotti must have said in the dressing room, hey, I don't care what happens, just make sure they let Walker get the ball. Once that happens, I don't give a shit. But just make sure Walker has to touch the ball to beat us. So those are, and then Vicario against set pieces. Those are the.
Well, we talked about this before we started recording. What he did today against Brentford. When he comes to catch this cross, don't know why he came in the first place. The thing's about to land on the edge of the box. Yeah. The dude comes to catch it, drops it, touches it away, suspectly reaches back in the box and touches it away from Damsgaard. And I was kind of okay, that looks sus, but it's not really that bad. And then is 5 yards out of the box, smacks it in front of himself again, and then kicks it away. And then everyone's just kind of and then of course in all that, Christopher Ayer and Thomas Frank got booked. So I was, glad. Going back to my previous point, I was glad everyone got taken care of well in that season.
Yeah. But all that build up about which players to exclude and include, and I'm going to start with an entity that I guarantee you did not have on your board at all. I'm starting with a ref.
Michael
Clement Turpin, French referee.
The Arsenal game the other day.
Officiated. I hope he didn't manage it. You said manage.
Well, he was out there managing the game.
Yeah. This dude.
Trossard look alike.
Literally, right? That's why I think it's kind of crazy that he refereed y'all's game, because I didn't think him and Trossard had ever been in the same building before. But this guy, every time I watch him, and most of the time it's Champions League games, or he does obviously the international competitions as well. Yeah, I know. I'm not burning the candle at both ends in Liga. No, not too much. But he is just a guy who loses control of the game almost every single time, almost immediately loses control of the game. Yeah, and that's the part where, this could be confusing, where you're saying, okay, we're talking about trick or treat, shouldn't this guy be in the Cam Reddish section? But for whatever reason, people entrust him. He refereed the Europa League final in 2021. He refereed the Champions League final 2 years ago between Real Madrid and Liverpool. This guy has been entrusted with some major games, so he apparently is doing something well at some level. Because for as corrupt as we think the sport is, I don't think they're just going to put a guy who everyone knows is horrible just refereeing huge games like that on a consistent level. Yeah, hey, different sports. So I just think Clement Turpin is absolutely horrible. I don't even know if that's a trick or treat or if that's just a rant that I'm going on, but Clement Turpin, he's the first face on my Mount Rushmore. Has to be.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
using the topic to just have your own rant is kind of just classic podcasting right there.
I stole that right out of your playbook.
Exactly. So I really appreciated that. My first one I think is actually going to shock you a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit further down my board because I was just so excited when I put this. I was like proud of myself. I saw it and I was like, man, that's a good pull right there. Serie A in the Champions League.
Very nice.
Just
very nice.
2-3 years ago, whenever 2022 when Inter made the final.
Yep.
And then
23.
Yes, 23.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, 23 Intercity. Yep.
So and the reason that it makes me laugh so much is because people can't wait to be the guy that knows more than everyone else. And so, like, Inter makes the Champions League final, and then people on Twitter are like, see, you don't watch Serie A, so you don't know how good they are.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't watch Serie A, so you don't know how good Onana is. Oh, you don't watch Serie A, so you don't know how good Edin Dzeko still is. It's like, no, they suck. They're not good. But then every once in a while, there'll just be a Serie A team that you just look up and it's like, okay, AC Milan is winning right now, is top of the group for some reason.
Exactly.
And then they turn around and just get smashed by Liverpool. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So they aren't good. I just wanted to double check, make sure. Because it's really funny with these leagues is they'll just have Premier League rejects. They'll have people that have been playing in like Turkey for the past 3 years that they sign as like their big new signing. Their like big summer signing will be like 15 million pounds. And people are like, oh no, these teams are really, really good. And then they somehow win games. But then other times they just get turned over, and it's like, yeah, their best player got signed for 15 million pounds 3 years ago from Forest. So yeah, of course he's not. Of course this team isn't going to be good. It's like, oh, I can't believe, how did AC Milan get smashed by Liverpool? Their best player's American. That's why. Their most dangerous player is an American who's playing on the right wing. Like it's just hilarious to me all the time. But then sometimes it's like, okay, Inter's in the Champions League final, and then other times it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, Juve is not good.
Yeah.
Unless they're playing against whoever they played against the other day.
PSV Eindhoven.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Yeah, PSV. The insurmountable PSV.
Kenan Yildiz did score an absolute peach of a goal.
That was a great goal.
One.
That was a great goal.
So not saying you were taken away from that, but. Just had to get that in there.
So Serie A in the Champions League, it just can be either they're making it to the final or they're just getting turned over by teams that are actually good.
No, it's a great point because even Juve, when they had their run where, I mean, they kind of had they've had 3 separate Champions League runs in the 21st century where I think in the early 2000s they made it to 3 straight finals. And then, obviously a couple years ago, bless you, they played Madrid, a couple of times.
Absolutely hammered.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they did in the final and then played them in the semifinal, I think either the year before or the year after. So it's like, exactly like what you said, either that's happening or it's AC Milan is clear favorites in the group and they go out 4th in the group, or Inter struggle.
Did they finish bottom of that Newcastle group last year?
I think Newcastle actually finished bottom of that one. Because I think AC Milan ended up
going the first game or something.
Yeah. Oh, they beat PSG 4-0. Yeah.
And then they just weren't.
I remember watching that one with my jaw on the floor. I was absolutely shocked.
Milan finished 3rd. Yeah. Newcastle finished bottom.
Yeah, and to be fair, they finished 3rd on goal differential anyway, so they had enough points to qualify.
Well, even this is a great example. They finished again. AC Milan, who won the league.
No, they didn't win the league this past year.
This year before, like when they qualified.
No. Napoli had won it that year.
Napoli, yes. Yeah. But then they finished below.
But they had won it like a couple years before, yeah. So it's the same squad of that team.
Correct. They finished below Borussia Dortmund and PSG. It's like, okay, so these guys are like title challengers, and now in the league, and now they're this Dortmund team who was not very good at all finished top of their group. Like, what's going on?
No, exactly. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And I mean, honestly, if you want to go, like Serie A just in general is so fascinating because Napoli, we were just talking about, they win the league and then all of a sudden they finish 9th the next year, or 8th the next year. So like Serie A as a whole is just confusing. But no, that's a really good shout. I think we both started off with maybe our strongest ones, and then now we're kind of moving from here. Why don't you go back to back on them? Hit them with the jersey.
Forest.
Explain, because I would just say they're not good.
Because just it seems like a couple of times a year. I mean, you see
Oh,
every
okay,
year,
I see.
like they just you're like, you know what? I know Arsenal's challenging for the league. We're just going to beat them 2-0 at home. And Alan Yee's going to score a brace. Why? Don't know. Don't know. Okay? But we just
we're going to beat Liverpool
away. We're just going to do it. Let's just go.
Team that hasn't given up a goal all season. Fuck it. We'll just score one.
Even I know this is a different level of team, but I'm pretty sure they beat Chelsea last year. Callum Hudson-Odoi scored like an absolute rip against them. And it's just like, we're just going to go to the bridge and win real quick.
That's fair.
Good, even though we're not good at all.
It's weird because it's like a unique mix of talent, and I don't even know. I think unique is probably the catch-all word you can use, because it's really just amassing kind of like the guys who you just talked about, where it's like, all right, my choices are either I'll go to Serie A and become good, or I'll just go to Forest.
Yeah.
I feel like those are that's the group of guys that they've been accumulating recently.
Who was it? The Sangare move was like the king of that. He
was down to Juve and Forest and picked Forest.
I went to
Forest. So, I mean, it was... But they're signing Remo Freuler, I thought, was like a class Champions League level midfielder, and then they signed him, and I was like, shit, this dude can't even play in the Prem. And now he's back at Bologna.
That's funny. I mean, when people give the Premier League shit about, they're not the best league in the world, they use da-da-da-da-da. It's like, no. These people that are, getting the Champions League quarterfinals as key pieces come into the league and can't play. Not even like they're not great. Like, they literally can't get on the pitch. For, relegation clubs, they can barely play.
Arnaud Danjuma was literally, the key cog to Villarreal reaching the semifinals of the Champions League. Then went on loan to Everton and could not play.
They were finishing 17th.
Yeah. That's all the evidence that needs to be handed out. So that's
Nicolas Dominguez. I remember him being a good up and coming player in the Serie A, one of the good Serie A midfielders, and then he came to the Premier League and he plays a decent amount. Never hear his name again because
not good
stand out in the Premier League.
No. Yeah, no.
I think who does do well? Chris Wood.
I think the way you explained it, I wasn't buying it at first, but after you explained it, I think you're right. Because when I'm thinking of teams, I think of them in the whole season mode, but you're just looking at more month to month, game to game. So I like that. Hit
me with your next one. How about you go? You hit a jersey right here.
The rest of mine,
jersey, not on the camera.
Yeah. The rest of mine are all players right now, so I'm gonna give you. First, the number one player that stands out the most to me is the epitome of this right now is Jan Oblak, Atletico Madrid keeper. Has been a guy who probably up until 2019 probably had the reputation as who's the best keeper in the world?
His name gets brought up.
Neuer or Oblak was pretty much if you just want to throw a name out there to sound safe, those are the two guys who no one would really have any qualms with, no one would argue with.
Yeah, his year to year since then has been
So I got it right here. 2020, 2021, when they won the league, when Simeone sold his soul, Luis Suarez went to, I don't even want to know where he went to sell his soul. He was on fire that year, and Jan Oblak saved 11.1 post-shot expected goals saved.
It by 11.
Yeah. By 11, which is insane, by the way.
For the record, if
you're 6, if you're above 5 or 6, you're having a great season. This dude was double that almost. So that was insane. The next year, the very next year, 21-22 season, where they finished third, minus 7.7. That's a 19. That's a 19 goal swing. I think the worst keeper in the Prem last year was minus 5 or 6 or something like that, which is he was literally the worst keeper, pretty much one of the worst keepers in the top 5 leagues all season long.
Right.
But no one really said shit because they're oh, Oblak. He's still good. The next year after that, where they finished third again, he bounces back. He's at plus 1.9. So it's like, he's slightly outperforming what he should be doing, like having a perfectly fine season. Then last year it comes back minus 3.2. So he's right back to being shit. So it's a guy who's had a very and look, doesn't offer a lot when it comes to the distribution part of it. So really his shot stopping ability is like the reason you're going to have him in the team, and he just hasn't done it, on a consistent basis over the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's funny because I think goalkeepers a lot of times can go under the radar if they're either inconsistent or not as good as they once were.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their stuff is like, unless it's howlers, then it's not noticeable. Like,
right.
If it's a shot and it's like, he probably should save that, but it's not like egregious, then you kind of just shrug your shoulders and move on. It's like, I don't know, sometimes those go in, it just kind of happens. But then, like you said, when you add it up throughout the season, it's like, he probably should have saved that one. He probably should have saved that one. It's like, eventually, it's like
10 goals later.
It's like, damn, we conceded 10 goals that we shouldn't have conceded. That's like turning draws into losses into draws, and wins into draws into losses, and like that can accumulate up to like 10, 15 points by the end of the year.
100%.
And that's definitely the difference between you winning the league and finishing fourth in a league like that. So that's a good one.
In a league that you have no business finishing fourth in.
Correct.
Yeah.
You have no business finishing outside the top three.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your next one? Are we going player again, you said?
Yeah, I'm actually going... Well, I'm going to give this one. This one is like a kind of semi, but it's like I'll just throw him up there. It's actually another athletic player, and I'm not just doing this because I'm a Madrid fan. It's really just one specific season. Marcos Llorente in 2020, 2021.
We were just talking about this the other day. It's your favorite.
The whole season, 13 goals and 12 assists. So 25 goal contributions in all competitions from a midfielder.
Okay.
From a midfielder. Hell of a year that year. He's playing midfield and wingback. What do you think his expected goals and assists were combined that year? Mind you, he scored and assisted 25 times. 11.
So not only is he just throwing shit at the wall and it going in, but he's also just fucking kicking the ball in the box and then someone's hitting it in the goal.
13 goals from 4.2 expected. Like
he was hitting bangers that year, man.
He
like
was.
It felt like every single week you would see some clip on like your
absolutely
feed of like this dude just hitting it, literally just hitting the ball, and it just flies in the top corner.
Yeah, and so 13 and 12 for him that year in all competitions. In the 3+ years since then, he has scored 11 goals. He has 13 assists. He has 24 goal contributions in, what's this? Let me do quick math real quick. 40. In 105 starts, 110 starts, this dude has 24 goal involvements. And then in 40 starts one year, he had 25. That is like, that's not even trick or treat. That's literally just, hey, he tricked the shit out of us one year.
He took shit out of himself, out of Simeone, out of the league, out of...
Oh, my God. It was... I'm almost positive he was player of the season that year, or in the running for it, for sure, for La Liga. So, like I said, that one season is insane.
When people are like, I can't believe so-and-so made this mistake, or I can't believe this club let this happen. It's like, let's just simmer down a little bit before we start.
How did Madrid let him go?
I mean,
because that was...
Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say that was a huge talking point that year because they beat us out for the league. And so it was like, oh, this dude who literally changed the title. I mean, literally, he did change the title race with that performance. And it was like, oh, how'd you let him go? And then in the years since, it's been like, no, I think you see why.
Yeah, because you see the same thing with, who was I just thinking? We're like 1 week away from getting those allegations with Emile Smith-Rowe because it seems like he's either scoring or assisting every single game. And it's like we're one match week away from being like, or like if we draw or if we lose the City next weekend, whatever, it's gonna be like, imagine they could bring Emile Smith-Rowe off the bench. It's like, okay,
he wasn't coming off the bench.
He scored
before.
home against Brentford. Okay, I don't care. Like, I'm happy for him, but like I don't think the difference between us losing to City and beating City away was going to be Emile Smith-Rowe 30 minutes off the bench.
Exactly.
Who was the first one that you said? I know you had Oblak and Llorente. and then
Clement Turpin,
Clement
the
Turpin.
referee.
Yeah, so Clement Turpin. So far, so we have from Chad, we have Clement Turpin, the ref, and then Jan Oblak and Marcos Llorente. I went with Nottingham Forest and then Serie A and the UCL. This one I think might surprise some people, especially me being an Arsenal fan. But Leo Trossard has to be on this list.
Ooh, God. So Leo Trossard on there twice.
Because he is one of those people that, again, if you don't consistently watch a team like Arsenal, then you would just, again, see those highlights on Twitter, see the whatever, and you're just like, man, this dude, Leo Trossard, always is scoring bangers, and he's always playing well off the bench, and he's always doing whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, and the people are like, why is, even Arsenal fans, why isn't he starting? Why is da-da-da-da-da? It's like, and then he starts, and then he sucks.
Yeah, he never makes an impact when he's a starter, honestly.
He's consistently horrible when he starts, and then it's just like, this is why, because he lacks pace. He's not very incisive with his movement. He's a good player, but he can't, like, he's one of those guys that's like, if I have a tired defense in front of me, if I have a game that's more stretched, I can make more of an impact. And versus we have a sitting defense, they're fresh, they're still mentally wired, they're still organized, all this other stuff. He can't be effective there. But after you've had Gabriel Martinelli running at you for 65, 70 minutes, shitting the ball away, then Leo Trossard comes in. It's like, oh, shoot, I don't know what to do, man. This dude can actually play the game a little bit. That's perfect for him. But then when he starts starting, and even last year he had like a pretty good run of when he was starting. But then when you see this year, it's like, all right, let's start Leo Trossard. And it's like, let's not start Leo Trossard actually ever again.
I tell you, just looking at his numbers since he's been at Arsenal, you look at his first 2 seasons, 13 goals, 11 assists in the league.
Flip-flop.
Literally, his first year. Yeah, go ahead.
He only assisted, or only scored. No, only assisted. I think he had like 1 goal and like 10 assists in the
good.
In like half a season. And then last year he scored like 13 goals and had 1 assist in all comps or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like that is the craziest thing I've ever seen over like a 2-year stretch.
I mean, even that part of it's trick or treat. It's like, all right, we have a creator. We have a guy that's going to create some goals. And it's like,
no, we've got a goal scorer.
Can't create for shit anymore, but I guess he's scoring, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it is funny. I will say I do enjoy watching him though. Like I just think,
well, even for Belgium, like it's like you're throwing out the Belgium team. It's like, man, they got KDB and they got Trossard and they got Lukaku, and then they did they did literally nothing in the Euros. I mean, I know people try and pretend to feel bad for Lukaku for scoring offside goals that were actually offside. But it's like they literally did nothing in the Euros. Offside. Like I don't really know what.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have
and I don't even think of him. I don't even really think of him as like a main player for them anyway at this point, which is it's not an indictment on him. It's just like when I look at their wing play, I'm looking more at Doku, Bakayoko, stuff like that, and through the middle, I'm like, well, De Bruyne. So, but yeah, go ahead, hit us with your 4th one. All right, I think you've got one more spot on that Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. KDB is reaching toward this trick or treat list, by the way. Ooh. But, that's neither here nor there.
Is that more injury based though, or do you think that's actually performance?
I think it's actually somewhat performance because there are a lot of times I watch him play now, and it's just kind of like
ineffective.
I mean, when he got taken off, what was it in like the FA Cup final?
Yeah, after like 55 minutes. Yeah, after 55 minutes, yeah.
It's like this dude's maybe, and I know no one wants to admit this dude's maybe the best midfielder in Premier League history, and Pep is just hooking him off in the 60th minute against Man United. He can't handle Colby Mainu and a washed Casemiro. Like
no, no. It was who was starting in that? That was Mainu and Amrabat. Come on, Fenerbahce legend.
My bad. So this last one, I'm torn. I'm really torn. All right, you tell me. I need your help. So I'm going to do a one-liner about each one. I need you to tell me which one deserves to go on my Mount Rushmore more. The Carabao Cup for being either the most entertaining thing or the least entertaining thing. Because if City wins it or Liverpool wins it, no one cares about it. But, like, if United wins it or any other club, like, or Newcastle makes it to the final, then people actually care about it. So that's one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Emi Martinez consistently conceding howlers and then being considered the best goalkeeper in the world.
You already know where.
Which he does turn up for Argentina too. So I assume by that side comment you made, I'm going to go with Emi Martinez.
Yeah. I'll just do a quick one on the Carabao Cup. The Carabao Cup is the equivalent of the Conference League. We all know the rules. No one gives a shit about the contest till your team's holding the trophy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even with when West Ham won it a couple of years ago, I had to hear all of these people
European trophy.
talk about how, see, even West Ham can win a European trophy. Ha 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 ha. But, the Cup Winners' Cup that we won in the 90s doesn't count. But the Conference League where they played like Alphabet FC every week, away in Bulgaria, that count. In like the semifinal, that counts. Okay. But, that's a good point. But Emi Martinez, it's just like, I watch Villa all the time. I really do, because I enjoy watching them play, and like the guys, like especially last year, like they have guys like Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey, Tielemans. I've always been a big fan of.
All fun to watch.
I love to hate watch John McGinn. So
that's a good one, Pat Beverly.
Like literally Pat Beverly, like the smallest guy on the pitch. He'll like elbow you in your C7, and then you'll just turn around and push him. He'll fall and grab his face, and then be like. And then he'll turn around in like the media and be like, "Yeah, I'm a hardo, by the way." Okay, but I like watch them. It just like seems like consistently even when Arsenal plays against them, like he's just consistently conceding awful goals that are like going straight off of his palm and into the goal, or like right at him, and he does like some acrobatic thing, and it's just like, why did that go in?
Yeah.
You had time to jump 100 feet in the air, throw both your arms at it, but you didn't touch the ball at any point in that dive. He's awful on the ball. He's awful on the ball.
Yeah. Oh, horrible.
And for some reason, again, now that he's a World Cup winner, he can pretend that he's good and be like, you know what? I'm going to clip this to the right back right now. Watch this.
Yeah.
And it goes out of bounds.
Into the third row.
Yeah, it's like, and then you can do one of these. Yeah. But then, I mean, obviously great on penalties. I'm not even going to deny that. He's really good on penalties. Yeah. He's a strong goalkeeper who will come for anything, and he's fearless. But it's like his shot stopping is just not good. His distribution is just not good. And I have to hear these conversations. I think this is the first time I mentioned him by name on the podcast. But your boy Floyd Watts is telling me, yeah, I mean, Emi Martinez is definitely better than David Raya like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's like, based on stupid. What? And
I'll just give you a quick stat. That post-shot expected goal number that we were talking about earlier, Emi Martinez this season, 4 games, so not including their 1-1 draw against the worst team in the league, Wolves today. In 4 games, minus 2.2.
Oh my God.
In 4 games!
I mean, that's literally on pace to have like 19.
Yeah, so obviously, well, I mean, you don't think that that's going to hold up, but just...
Yeah. But I mean, the Arsenal goal he conceded to Thomas Partey was awful.
Horrible.
Like awful.
He conceded another, like... Didn't he concede one where it was like a... Was that this season or last, where it was like literally a cross, and then it somehow hit off his chest and then went in?
Yeah,
I think that was this season.
Hit off the chest and
went in. Yeah. So he just does dumb shit like that.
And then like I
have to
hear his name thrown in as like one of the best goalkeepers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I told this to Don as well. I was like, so why doesn't anybody want him?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, and then he tried to convince me, oh, well, it's because
he's 32.
No, it's because he said he wanted to stay at Villa and play in the Champions League. It's like,
get the fuck out of here. You play in the Champions League in 40 teams now.
So Manuel Neuer is 103. And you're telling me that Bayern Munich never once was like, you know what? We could use a goalkeeper that isn't 100 years old.
Or, I mean, look at Inter. Inter's like the king of signing the 30-year-old goalkeeper and trying to get 3 seasons out of him. How have they not made that move yet?
Nah, because Jan Sommer is also better than David Raya, according to Don. So
yeah, no, that was an awful take. That was a bad take as soon as he said it.
But it's like, but Emi Martinez again, since he plays for Argentina, since he won multiple trophies with them. Now Villa are playing the Champions League. He gets his name thrown into that, and it's just he's not at that level. Vicario also, I'm glad that he's honorable mention to him. I'm glad that he's getting his recognition now. As one of the worst goalkeepers in the league. because I had to hear all last year about, oh, look at these saves he's making.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so awesome.
He did make 2 really good saves today, though. I'll give him that.
That header save that he made at the far post was really good. But it's like, dude, they're conceding 11 shots on goal a game. There's going to be a couple where it's like, oh, man, that was nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so my Mount Rushmore ended up being Nottingham Forest, Serie A in the UCL, Leo Trossard, and then Emi Martinez. Who is going to round out your list of Oblak, Marcos Llorente, and Clement Turpin?
This is a name
Turpin, right?
No. I'm actually surprised, and maybe this guy goes in the category of too obvious to even name, but Leroy Sané, I think, is like literally the epitome of this. I'll just give you a quick breakdown of his season last year, 23-24. Before New Year's, 1 goal. Or I'm sorry. Before New Year's last year, 9 goals, 9 assists. Most goal contributions in the Bundesliga. After New Year's, 1 goal, 3 assists from him last year. And that's 2 years. That's 2 years in a row that he's done that. In the year before that, 20, and so this is more of the month-to-month guy, right?
Yeah.
When you look at his numbers over the course of a season and over the course of his career, yeah, it makes sense, right? He's honestly been, it's crazy because he's had all of his best seasons, underlying numbers-wise while he's been at Bayern, and then just throw in the fact that he had randomly 33 league goal involvements as a 21 and 22-year-old at City, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
But he is like the definition of the dude who, when he doesn't give a shit, he'll just go out there, we'll pass it a couple of times, he'll fake to cut in, maybe take 3 shots from 35 yards out just to show that he's engaged, but just, immediately with Leroy Sané if he's into this game or not. I think the classic example of it was when they played Man City in the Champions League 2 years ago. Obviously, his former club. He's going against them for the first time, I think it was, and he wants to perform. This dude got off like 6 or 7 amazing solo shots, like created on his own, tough shots created, put 6 or 7 good ones on in one game, and then second leg he was just like, I'm good. I'll just stand out on the byline.
Yeah,
and I'm just like,
Sané
okay.
is one of those guys too that I've always been a big fan of, but
I am too. I love him. I love him as a player, actually.
It just seems like you said, like every time I see one of those Bayern highlight things, it's like, okay, so they lost, and he started and he played all 90 minutes, and there's not a single highlight of him creating a chance, scoring a goal, whatever. Like those really, really good players. There's always a highlight of them doing something in the game. The guys like your Vinny Juniors, your Jude Bellinghams, your Kylian Mbappe. Like even if they're missing the goal, like they're doing something. They're influencing the game somehow. They're in the right place. They just couldn't connect, or they didn't have their best game, so the ball doesn't go in. But there are times where it's like, okay, Gnabry missed chance. Harry Kane, okay. Goretzka did something, okay. And their whole play is going down like the left side because Leroy Sané, it's just like, I'm good. I'm good.
And then the only highlight you see is him coming off for Thomas Muller. Like that's the highlight you see of Sané. So
yeah, exactly.
It's incredibly, to me, he probably epitomizes this more than any of these guys because he is like the definition of having both tricks and treats, right? Like on his best day, genuinely, he's like, how does anybody ever start over this guy in the world? Like, genuinely, you look at him and they're like, he's a top 2 or 3 winger in the whole world right now. And then, like you said, he'll go multiple games in a row where you don't even know that he's even started.
Yeah.
So.
Chad's list ended up being Jan Oblak, Marcus Llorente, Clement Turpin, the ref, which I think is class, and then Leroy and Sané. And then my list ended up being Forrest, Serie A in the UCL, Leo Trossard, and Emi Martinez. Let us know for you guys, who's that inconsistent player? What I really would like to hear is who's that inconsistent player that you just can't quit? Chad, if you were to say off the top of your head, maybe a player associated with one of your teams. Let's go any sport. Associated with any of your teams that's just like, you know what? When that guy has a good game, it really puts a smile on your face, and you just can't help but think, you know what, my guy's gonna come through for us today.
We talking current players or just kind of all time?
I love an all-time one. That'd be awesome.
I'll tell you a crazy one for the Cowboys that was over the past couple years was Dorrance Armstrong, the defensive end. This dude had every single tool to be like a sick pass rusher coming out of Kansas. Really I think had one good year for us, had 9 sacks. But other than that, like every year was just like, man, this dude's about to be a beast. And then I was like, 17 tackles, 1.5 sacks on the season. Thanks a lot, Dorrance Armstrong. And now he's in Washington, I think, kicking it with Dan Quinn. So shout out to Dorrance Armstrong. That was kind of a rogue shout, but I'm picking him. What about you? He was the first one that came to mind.
The one that actually probably isn't viewed like this as from Arsenal fans, but Aaron Ramsey would just go missing for 3 months at a time. Like, he wouldn't have a goal, an assist, an important pass. He wouldn't make a tackle. He wouldn't do anything. And then, like, for like a 5-6 game stretch, this dude would just score every single game. And he'd score in every big game. And it's like, oh, man, Aaron Ramsey, really good midfielder. And then, like you said, you look back and it's like, wait, he had 4 goals and 4 assists this year? I thought he did that all in, like, the month of March. And it's like, oh, no, he did. He did do that all in the month of March.
Yeah.
It's like,
just so happens that that was all he did all
it just
year.
Just so happened that it was City away, an FA Cup semifinal, and Man United home. So it just feels like he scored 1,000 goals this year. I thought Aaron Ramsey was always really, really good at like doing things in big games. So it seemed like he was having a good year, or that he just was good. And it was like, oh no, we can live without him. That's why I was so weak when he left Arsenal, that people were so like devastated. It was
my God.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I've liked Aaron Ramsey because he plays for my team, but I'm not shedding any tears over him leaving.
No, it's the definition of the guy who scores a loud 15, where like you see 2 threes he hits and a putback dunk, and you're like, man, this dude must have 30. And it's like, no, you just watch 70% of his points happen right there. Quick quiz question. I'm putting you on the spot. Who does Aaron Ramsey play for right now?
Rangers.
No, sorry.
Did he play for Rangers last year? Am I imagining that?
No, he played for them in 21-22. He only had 5 starts for them. That was a quick Ranger spell.
Does he play? He doesn't play for Nice still, does he?
No, that was who we went to after. He spent 1 year there. The club he's at right now, he's been at for last season and this season. So,
it's an English club?
Yes, it is.
In England.
It is
Cardiff?
an English club. Yeah.
Okay.
You kind of asked the perfect question, really.
I was like, I have to assume that the only place he would have gone without me hearing about it was back to Cardiff. But I was like, yeah.
Jesus. So,
are they even in the championship, or are they in?
They are. No, it says championship. They're in the championship. So, I'm trusting what FB Ref says. FB Ref is my go-to.
Rough 2-0 loss for them today. got a man sent off in the 23rd minute, so that's never good. Well, the good news is though, holy shit, they had Callum Chambers playing at center back for him.
Arsenal legend.
Yeah, 2 Arsenal legends.
Yeah.
Sorry, not on the pitch because
Ramsey missed.
I guess didn't make the match day squad.
Damn, that's crazy. He started their first 4.
Dude, this team is kind of crazy. This is kind of a who's who of like
Ethan, I'm gonna see you popping up in a Cardiff jersey for the next recording.
Well, Ethan Horvath is on this team, the American.
I did know that. I actually did know
Anwar
that.
El Ghazi, the Villa legend. Chris Willick, brother of Joe Willick, is on this team, and they played against this Leeds team who has some god awful names in here like Paddy Bamford, Carl Darlow, Joe Rodon, what's it called, Spurs legend, Junior Firpo, who somehow
Barca legend
in a couple years went from Barca to the championship. So this is impressive. Willie Nanto somehow was their best player when they went down, and he's still playing for the club.
Junior Firpo, I love that he was the first dude I ever seen get moved twice in the same window. So that was always good. That was nice.
Oh yeah, he moved to God, where did he move to first? And then he went to
We moved to Barca. Barca was the first move.
Yeah.
He was Betis to Barca, and then Barca to Leeds, all in the same year. I'm pretty sure, all in the same window.
No. He was 2 years at Barca.
Oh shit! I guess I'm misremembering. Maybe I'm 90% positive he moved twice in the same window, but I don't know.
Joined Barca in August of 2019. Joined Leeds in July of 2021.
Fair enough. I got that one wrong, but hey, the people don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear me rambling on about Junior Firpo's career.
About championship left backs. Yeah.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah, so let us know what you guys thought about this week's episode. I'm still working out some severe Wi-Fi issues. It just cuts out like once an hour, so
gotta live with it.
If there's stuff in there that are a little cut off, that's a check on me. But let us know what you guys think. Actually, Chad, what was the number? 1.2? 2.2? 2.2 thousand views on our channel. So
you better start cutting the checks, man. Start cutting the checks.
Yeah. So really excited, really proud of that for us, and very thankful.
Absolutely.
Obviously, every time I get a text about the podcast, or someone talks to me about the podcast, I always light up a little bit, and it's really exciting. Obviously, something that me and Chad enjoy doing and preparing for. So continue to let us know what you think, what topics you think we should cover. And what Colorado's road to the playoffs is going to look like. Just let us know all that stuff, because we're really excited to hear. And you heard it here first, man. Chad Larson episode 42. All right,
only a year away.
Only a couple more episodes away.
Exactly.
Y'all have a good rest of y'all's day, and we'll see you next week.